We're excited to speak with Christine Muldoon today, a mom of 3 and a former educator turned nutritional therapy practitioner. Using ancestral nutrition and conscious parenting, Christine specializes in educating and supporting families in perinatal and childhood nutrition. She is the founder and creator of Nourish the Littles, an online community that offers parents education with an online course and one-on-one consultations related to nutrition and feeding families nourishing foods. She believes nourishing the body goes beyond just food. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I've been following your account for a while now, and I've been inspired by, just information that you put out there and your way of being. And so I'm excited to talk to you here today and share you with the Brain Possible community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm really honored by that introduction.
Okay, well, let's start with your why. What started you on this journey, and why do you feel called to this work that celebrates whole food and connection?
So my simple answer is the future generation, but the more elaborate, past history to that goes into what I used to do before I was a nutritional therapy practitioner, which is an educator. And I worked in one of the worst schools in East Harlem in New York City. And I saw firsthand what they were feeding the kids. And these were kids that couldn't afford to bring food to school. So they were dependent on the school breakfast and the school lunch. Mm-hmm. And even then, I was not an NTP back then, but it really shocked me what they were feeding the kids. And on top of that, I was working with kids with special needs. So it kind of got my wheels turning and made me wonder, I wonder if some of these disabilities would be diminished or could be improved, or maybe not even existent, if these kids were fed different foods. And so that was kind of the start of my interest in nutrition and the beginning of my why. And now, I sit here after doing this for 3 years, and my kids are the biggest purpose behind my why, but also the future generation. This is the first generation of kids that will not outlive their parents. And that is terrifying. And what have we done to our society and to our kids that we're at this point? So I think that's my why, because we need to fight for their. Yeah. We have to leave. I think there's a Native American saying that says we are borrowing the earth from the future generations. And I believe very much in that. So we are, everything that we're doing now is taking away from my grandkids and my grandkids' grandkids. So we need to nourish them now so that the future generation can thrive.
Yeah, that's scary. I think I've heard that. Where did you hear that? That this generation will not outlive their parents?
That is a great question. I actually do not know where I that. It's been floating around in nutrition forums. So
yeah. And just for some context, this is kind of a little bit of what I was talking about with the woman I interviewed yesterday. This is because childhood cancer rates are going up and other diseases. Is that your understanding?
Yes. Yeah, right. And basically chronic illness. So there are kids currently with diabetes, with obesity, with allergies, just this chronic illness that will eventually turn into autoimmune disorders
Mhm.
and yes, cancer and cardiovascular issues and things like
Yeah,
that. Chronic
scary.
disease.
Yeah, it's scary. Um, so in your opinion and your work, what is the tie in between food, connection, and family? Can you talk about that intersection a little bit?
Yeah. So they are very, very interconnected. Um, there's many different levels to this. The first I would say is that when we are sitting down to eat with our family, there is the emotional connection of we're all sitting down together, we're going to talk about our day, we are going to eat this nourishing food that was provided. If you have a baby in front of you, it's a lot of modeling for the baby, for the kids, manners, just the way we eat, the way you interact as an individual at a table. It's meal times are a really special time for connection.
Mm-hmm.
And how does this relate to food is, well, there's several levels. The first I would say is when we sit down at a meal, if we are not stressed, if there are no screens present, and if we are relaxed, then our body is in a parasympathetic state. And so this means that we can digest our food better. We can enjoy our meal more thoroughly. And it just sets our bodies up for success to be able to go through the entire digestive process.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, there's also the nourishment aspect of a parent, a caretaker, has taken the time to prepare the food. Even if that food is, thrown together quickly, or if it's leftovers, or if it's a hot dog, either way, that food has been prepared by someone who is caretaking, their kids, and sitting down and being grateful for the nourishment that's on the table. I mean, all of that is connected. Yeah.
Human connection. How old are your little kids?
Yeah, 7 years, 4 years, and almost 1.
Oh, and do you
Yeah.
involve them in cooking at home?
I do. Lately, they have been more interested in playing than in being involved in the cooking process, but they each have their own job. So my 4-year-old sets the table, my 7-year-old picks up the table and then does the dishes afterwards. And my 1-year-old sits on my hip or is in the ergo.
Yeah, just absorbing.
Yeah, totally. They do enjoy cooking, and every once in a while, if they've come down from their play, then they'll either cut a few veggies or help me mix some foods. But at this stage in life, maybe in the past year, they haven't helped as much. They've been interested in playing. But
yeah, I get that. In your Real Food and Real Families course, you cover childhood nutrition, including picky eating. What tips do you have for our listeners who are struggling with this issue in particular? Because we do get people who write in and tell us about their children's picky eating habits.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few. So the first thing I'm going to say about picky eating is it is a normal developmental stage, and that it comes at a time when kids are beginning to exert more independence, both physical independence from their parents, and also they're becoming more vocal with their language. And so they're learning that they also have independence with their words and that their words have meaning. So they can say things like, I don't want to eat this carrot, and actually follow through with it, and they don't have to. So it's important to understand that, kind of the developmental side of it, that it's totally normal. And in a way, we can celebrate it because it's our kids saying, hey, look at me, I'm a little adult, or I'm starting to become more independent and exert my own opinions. And so that's a good thing. At times where we need to maybe be more concerned about it would be if a child is not eating more than, let's say, 10 foods. If a child is eating the same foods over and over again, there could be a few underlying causes. One could be a sensory processing disorder. There could be feeding delays. Another could be something like digestive dysbiosis. So a dysbiosis within the gut microbiome. And this would cause an imbalance in bacteria and causes kids to crave the very foods that are actually harming them. And typically these foods they tend to be sweets, breads, pastas, carbohydrates like that. And so if a parent has put aside that, okay, my child is eating more than 10 foods, and I don't think that there's an underlying cause, then this is simply just a stage. So what can we do? A few things we can do is, the first is, I always recommend, if you're offering new foods, to offer it in really, really small portions, very small portions. It's less intimidating for a child to look at a plate with just a few pieces of a new food versus a full plate of food and the expectation that they need to eat it. The other tip would be to offer a piece of food on the plate that they are familiar with. It doesn't have to be something that they love eating, but something that they've seen before. So you have smaller portions, a food item that they are familiar with. And then the biggest advice that I follow in my home and that I recommend to my clients comes from the Ellen Sater Institute, which is, as the caregivers, it's our job to offer our kids the food and when they eat. So we choose what they eat and when they eat. They choose if they eat and how much. And really, this is so hard for parents. I actually just posted about this today because we have so many of our past experiences that impact how we're feeding our kids today. And a lot of times, meal times can be triggering for adults because we've grown up with, you have to clear your plate, you have to eat all of the food that's on your plate, you have to try this new food, as opposed to treating our kids as if they were a dinner guest. And we would not tell our dinner guest, well, I'm not going to give you dessert if you don't eat that broccoli. Or we wouldn't comment on our friend's plate about how they finished their rice, but they didn't finish their meat. And so just giving our kids the same respect that you would a friend at the dinner table.
Yeah, man, that is definitely not what I do. I think I probably do it wrong, but it works for me, I suppose. But I am, I make them clear their I make them clear the plate of at least the things that I know. It might be on any given day. I might just say, usually it's the meat I say you have to eat, but it might be the vegetables, or I might say just 3 bites, but I'm guilty of that one.
Oh no, trust me, we all are. I've fallen into those patterns as well before. Sometimes it's just, it's old habits coming up. Is what you're familiar with because it's what I grew up with.
Right.
And the other piece that I want to also bring up is trust. Really, so the smaller the child is, I would say babies through to about 3 years, they have incredible instincts on what it is their body needs. So there will be days in which they will binge on carbs and won't eat anything else. And it's probably because their brain is going through an insane amount of growth spurt where it is consuming all of these carbs like crazy. Or there might be days where all they're eating is protein. I'll never forget this. My daughter, my 4-year-old, she eats, but she doesn't eat as much as her older brother. And there was one day this summer where she ate 5 full plates of meat. She didn't touch anything else on her plate, nothing. She just ate meat as if her life depended on it. And the very next day, her shoes did not fit. And it's just crazy to me because these kids know what their bodies need. And sometimes if we just trust them and let them eat from the plate what they feel like they need, or even what they want, what tastes good to them, then it will yield a more peaceful mealtime than coaxing and bribing.
Yeah. And a more peaceful person, probably.
Yeah.
So you coach people to transition from processed foods to real foods. I love this idea, and it's a great idea. I want everyone to transition from processed foods to real foods. But for a lot of people, they may say this is easier said than done. How do you get people started?
Yeah. So one of the best ways to get started is by reading ingredient labels. And I do this with my clients by educating them on ingredients, what certain ingredients are, what they mean, how they're made, and how they affect their body. Once we know what some of the ingredients that we are consuming are, you're less likely to want to purchase that same product again. And the good news is the more we vote with our dollars, the more the industry is creating cleaner products every day.
Yeah.
So instead of goldfish, I say, try Simple Mills if you are gluten-free. You can try Jovial brand, has some fabulous sourdough crackers. These are not goldfish shaped, yes, and they're not orange and they're not cute, but they have much cleaner ingredient options than a goldfish per se. So the first thing I work on is swaps and educating my clients on just what the ingredients are and what they do to the body.
Yeah. I can't stand goldfish because once I feel like over the years, once I learn about something, an ingredient or, a hazard to our health, that then I can't unlearn it. And so then I get a little bit rigid. And I guess sometimes my husband has pointed out that I get a little bit too rigid.
For sure.
Because then I'm like, you can't have that.
Yeah. No. Right. I understand. It's I definitely have the same battle because there is a little bit of it's a little bit dangerous to know as much as I do.
Yeah.
But there is one thing that I remind myself when I kind of go down this this thought process, which is we are currently living an experiment. We as a society are a living experiment.
Yeah.
The way we are eating now has never been done before, ever.
Right.
And we are 100 years into this experiment, and we're not doing so hot. And the other thing when it comes to ingredients is, yes, these ingredients are FDA approved, air quotes. However, they have never been studied. The cumulative effect of these ingredients has never been studied. So we do not know what the combination of artificial sweeteners plus citric acid, plus maltodextrin, I can, whatever other list, we do not know the cumulative effect of all of those ingredients together constantly. That is what we are doing on a daily basis when we are eating processed foods.
Yeah.
And so that's part of my push for clients to, at the very least, swap them out for cleaner options.
Well, so how long does it usually take people to switch over from a completely processed diet to eating real foods? I imagine that anyone who comes to you is looking for, like, they're highly motivated to actually do it. Is that correct?
Yeah. For sure. Yes. I would say, how long does it take? I am 7 years into this journey, and I'm still working on it. So I would say this is not a quick fix. This is a lifestyle change.
Right.
And so just to remember that it's a journey, and every year I learn something new, and I invent something new. And as you go, you just see what works for you and your family and your current life situation as well.
Right.
I mean, it 100% depends on each individual family unit. Because obviously there's variables like finances, time, the number of kids, life situation, whether kids are in school or being homeschooled, involvement of extended family members, sports. I mean, there's so many variables. So I think doing the best that we can. And when you know better, you do better. So it's a step-by-step process.
Right. Yeah, I do think that, I mean, I'm not cooking 100% of everything from scratch yet at this moment. And also still, we eat out. And over the summer, we started eating out kind of a lot. And I started to get like, scared, because I always say this, I tried to follow this 80-20 rule, and then I kind of flipped it the other way. And it was pretty bad. Yeah. But I think that is nice for people to just know. I mean, you just have to start somewhere, and it might just be one little swap at a time, not eating those goldfish and swapping it for something else, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you believe that nourishing the body goes beyond food. What do you mean by that? And how does it show up in your work?
Yeah, that is a great question. So this has been a journey that I did not begin on until I had my own kids. And I kind of had this realization that there was past trauma from when I grew up that was affecting the way I parented my kids, my relationships with others, and the way I interacted on a daily basis. And believe it or not, that also affected my physical health. And our emotional and our physical is completely intertwined. And so while I might be able to help certain clients with their physical health, there might be blocks that are beyond me, because there are, trauma hidden within the body that, I don't have the expertise to release. But one of the things that I do is at least bring awareness to clients that when you're working with me, it's not just the physical. We are also going to talk about the emotional, and plays a piece into your physical health.
Right. Yeah. So I have some similar realizations lately as I've, done different testing and, see that my gut is continuing to not heal. And I think I've just been maybe resistant to I must reduce stress and must meditate and I must go on my quiet walks and things like that, because they actually help, and your body cannot heal and it will not heal if you don't calm things down, is my understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-care. Self-care is really important. And for some of us, at least in my experience, I was not modeled self-care growing up. And so it's one of those things that I have to consciously advocate for myself as an adult. Yeah, and all of that is a part of that is reducing stress.
And how do you like to take care of yourself or teach? What do you tell your clients?
Yeah, meditation is a big one for sure. I definitely believe in meditation and journaling. For me personally, journaling has been really helpful. Just, writing your thoughts down. Being outside, grounding, being under the sunshine. If clients if they really like to exercise for sure. And yeah, those are some of my recommendations.
Those are good ones. Yeah. So you work with clients for their children, but you end up working on their health as well?
Yes, it often happens that I will end up working with a parent because the parent is the one who's cooking, especially when it comes to the young kids. And I've seen that occasionally a parent's health issues will mirror the child. So whatever the parent needs work on, the child needs the same.
Oh.
Yeah. And this happens because specifically with mothers, oftentimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, but we didn't heal our gut before we got pregnant, or we had, our own health issues and then we got pregnant. And sometimes that got passed on to our kids.
Right.
But,
yeah. So I think this has also been another topic that has been coming up a lot lately, is the idea, and that, that maybe people don't really have put a lot of thought into this, but your kids will be born with whatever microbiome that you had.
Yeah.
And so they're going to end up with probably the same toxin load or a similar looking one, and also same gut flora.
Yes, that's definitely true. And it also goes into play with, how whether we have leaky gut, because a lot of if you're, a pregnant mother with leaky gut, then a lot of these large proteins are passing through into the bloodstream and then affecting the fetus and that. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's difficult to be a parent in today's world.
Yeah, that would make sense why my kids all have the same food allergies as me. I think I never healed my leaky gut. And so now, at least kids, they heal faster, supposedly. So they're working on healing now. And then hopefully they can move on, and it's better to know sooner than later.
Definitely. Yeah. I have, within like my nutrition books and stuff, I've read that a child's gut microbiome is not fully developed until 5 years of age. So we have until they're about 5 to feed them as much nourishing food as we can, all the fermented foods, get some good probiotics. And
That's someone said that to me the other day, but that's a little disheartening because what about beyond that? Can't we make changes beyond that, beyond
You,
5, 6?
you definitely can, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's possible. Yeah.
it's just easier
It's
when,
easy.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's,
So what do you mean by conscious parenting? You mentioned a few things, like at the dinner table, but how can our listeners take steps to get to conscious parenting?
that's such a great question. So one of the best ways to do it is to be present in the moment. And it sounds really simple because we think, oh, yes, 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 I'm always present in the moment. But realize that when you are with your kids at the dinner table, for example, are you savoring that bite of food? Are you watching your child eat? Or are you thinking about the next thing that needs to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe taking a peek at your cell phone? Or maybe, this idea that we are fully present in the moment and we are respecting our kids as the growing individuals that they are, as their own autonomous beings. They are not like us. They're literally blank slates. And then the other aspect of conscious parenting too is the realization that our childhood 1000% is affecting the way we parent our own kids. We might not think it is,
Yeah,
but it creeps in of every moment of every day. I'm trying to think of a good example. So again, if we're talking about the dinner table, and as a child, we were told that if we did not finish our plate of food, we could not eat dessert. It's possible that as parents, we are repeating that same pattern. Or maybe we're not actually saying it, but sitting at the dinner table and watching our child not finish his plate of food gives us anxiety.
yeah,
Us. And so conscious parenting would be the realization that as we're sitting at that dinner table and you're stealing glances at your child anxiously to see if they're eating their food, reflecting in your mind, stopping and realizing, wait a second, I'm feeling anxious right now because he hasn't touched his broccoli. Why am I feeling anxious about this? Why is this something that is triggering me? And maybe not in that moment reflecting on it, but taking the time after the kids are asleep or later in the day to meditate on it, pray about it for those that are spiritual, journal about it. Just think about, why was it so triggering to me that he didn't eat the broccoli? Why did it bother me?
Yeah.
And just like getting to the root cause, which is very, very difficult. I mean, that is also another lifelong journey. And that's the emotional lifelong journey of improving your health.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I think of when I think of conscious parenting.
Right. Just kind of dropping into ourselves and how, why we are doing the things that we're doing, or when anxiety bubbles up, why is it, what's causing that, and thinking about that.
Yeah.
And being present with our kids in each moment.
Yeah. So there is a fabulous, a wise woman of respectful parenting called Magda Gerber.
Yes.
Yes, she's so incredible. And one of the things that she talks about is want, not quality time. And basically what this translates to is quality time spent with our kids in which they don't want anything from us, just our presence.
Right.
And moments like changing our baby's diaper or helping our kids get dressed or feeding them, these are all these want not quality times where we are literally, all they are seeking is our presence and our connection. And so it's times like that where it's perfect opportunity to offer that to our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that this is something that I have a desire to, parent in this way. And it's a struggle for me. And I have to keep reminding myself, over and over again to drop into that, because it's not a habit yet. But
I completely understand. It's not quite a habit yet for me either. Sometimes I fall back into, I guess, behaviorist parenting styles.
Yeah. Well, Christine, is there anything else that you would like to share with the Brain Possible audience today to be complete?
To be complete. That's a great question. I think, I would like to leave on a note of hope, and just that knowing that our kids are worth it and that we are worth it. So this work on ourselves, whether it's physical or emotional or both, will yield a better version of ourselves, and then we can become better parents and will eventually create a better society. So I think that especially nowadays, when there's a lot of discussion about individual responsibility, and it is our responsibility to take care of others. And I'm actually going to go against that belief and say that it's actually our responsibility to take care of just ourselves. And when we focus on just ourselves and we improve our health, again, physically and emotionally, we are improving the nucleus of our family. And if everyone is doing this, then overall, hopefully, we will have a more conscious society and everyone will be healthier overall. And I really think it starts with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And it takes a little bit of pressure off too.
Yeah.
Really? I only have to take care of myself?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing these little bits of wisdom and taking a little dive into your work with us today. How can our audience find out more about you and your work?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So I have a website called nourishthelittles.com. I am on social media, on Instagram under Nourish the Littles. And if you are familiar with Bloss Life, which is a parenting expert website, I am also there.
Awesome. And is that, you mentioned that earlier, can you spell that?
Yeah, it's BLOSS Life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think that's it.
This is great. Thank you so much. This is really cool.